Alhamdulillah. Well, this has been, inshallah, this may be the last of this particular series with our brother Muhammad. Quite an incredible story that he's told us about his journey to Islam, basically his life growing up. How he came to New York City as a youngster, learned English, and then from there, eventually ended up in the Midwest and got into bad terms with his family, and then eventually got to the streets, which led to prison. And from there, he saw this blue book and read the book, and mashallah, Allah guided him, and he became Muslim. And so, with very little intervention or involvement from other Muslims. And so, from that, Brother Muhammad, tell us, what happened after that? How did Islam change your life, and what became of you after that?
اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى.
Well, the changes were actually quick. I said before that I always immerse myself in the things that I'm involved in, and I always find a way to make myself serviceable. And I took the deen, and I had asked God, Allah, to guide me, and I had asked Him to show me the right way. And I had made the decision years before that if I was going to make it through my situation, that I needed God in my life. And I was doing what I knew best up until that point. But once I became Muslim, it literally magnified everything that I ever felt towards God. And it finally gave me the assurance that I was doing everything correct. No longer did I have to worry about where it was coming from or how to implement it or how some story was supposed to affect my life. Like so many of the stories that I had read before in the Bible, they were just stories to me. Mm-hmm. And never was there actual clear cut, do this, do that, do this, do that, and how to do it. So we find out that we are created to worship God, and that this feeling that I had from the beginning of my time was because that was my creative purpose. It was to worship God. Mm-hmm. So knowing that Allah had put that in my heart, once I came to Islam, I started learning. And I met brothers quickly, and they started teaching me things. And I was in circles and having conversations that people were essentially speaking over my head. I was new to the deen, and up until that point, all I knew was that I was on the right side, on the right team, and that I was going to do everything possible to stay that way. Mm-hmm. But when you're in a conversation and people are speaking over you, and they speaking about a matter that you're supposed to be standing on, obviously it makes it to where you yearn. At least I did personally. I yearned to learn what they was talking about, and to learn about the things that I was supposed to be doing, and the intricate details that go towards a life of worship. And I was finally in a position where I could learn these things, and I could find out. And if I had a question, I could actually get a clear understanding and a clear answer as to what I was thinking, how I'm supposed to think about it, how I'm supposed to approach it, what I'm supposed to do to prepare for it, and how I'm supposed to carry it out. So when you give somebody directions and they know the directions are right, it's a beautiful thing. And I can honestly say that I started implementing what I was learning, and God never let me down as far as what I was supposed to be doing. As long as I learned it and I implemented it, I got to see and experience the wisdom behind it. Some of it, obviously, because only God knows the details of everything. And Allah Ta'ala, He's the best of planners and the all-knowing.
MashaAllah. And so what you're talking about, Muhammad, is the fact that in Islam we have more than just the Quran, right? We have the Quran and we have the Sunnah. And the Sunnah is the practical, like we want to say the Quran is it's general, like it may tell you to make salah or to make prayers or to fast or to do this, that, and the other. But the Sunnah is khas in that it's specific and it tells us specifically how do we implement these things, how do you do these things, how do you live your day-to-day life. And so that was something, what I hear you saying, and what many Muslims say, is that their lives were missing something before, and Islam fills that void because it tells us exactly how we're supposed to live our lives on this earth. So is that what you felt?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I can vividly remember at the time when I became Muslim, I was still smoking cigarettes. I was still getting high. I was still drinking hooch. I was still doing these things up until that time. Now, certain things I started making changes about. As soon as I found out about the pork, I actually had a couple bags of pork and threw them in the trash. I was like, I'm not even Muslim, but I knew I wasn't supposed to be eating it.
Yeah.
So I threw it in the trash. And then I remember June 6th, I stopped smoking cigarettes. This is 30 days to the date after I became Muslim. And it's significant because not only is it only 30 days, and I had tried to quit before, but I never really wanted to. You say you try, but you really don't do something until you actually decide to do it. And I remember once I knew that I wasn't supposed to be doing that and putting this toxic into my body, I remember sitting there smoking and I would be blowing myself down, just talking crazy to myself. Look at you. You supposed to be Muslim. You supposed to be living for God. You this, you that. You faking. I'm talking to myself like this. And ultimately it became to where I couldn't even stand it no more. So I was like, yo, I'm done. And cold turkey. June 6th, I never picked one up again. Alhamdulillah, I remember saying a prayer. I remember asking Allah to guide me and to bless me as He saw fit. I mentioned to Him the difficulty in it. And I told Him that I was going to put it down in His name. And to this day, I've never seen the end of the blessings from Allah.
MashaAllah. So, to say the least, then, I can imagine that your family and friends saw this huge change in who you were, probably relatively suddenly. Is that? They.
Well, they didn't get to see me regularly. My parents used to come see me once a year because obviously they were either coming from Florida and ultimately later on down the line they started coming from the Dominican Republic. And they would come during spring break. They were both bus drivers and they would come during spring break and they would see me for the weekend, all 3 days. My mother, I never told my family I was Muslim. I never saw it important at the time. I mean, when I was a fresh Muslim, not even a year. I took it as I have to learn what I'm supposed to be doing and worry about myself. Ever since I became Muslim, I try to worry more about myself and my condition than anything else. And I didn't see it necessary to be walking around telling my parents, oh yeah, I did this, did that, knowing that it might hurt them, but I figured I will deal with it down the line when it comes. My mother comes, and I think this was the year after I became Muslim. So I became Muslim May, she came March. And that March, she was arguing with my brother about him being Muslim, right? And in order to get her off of his back, he threw me under the bus. He says, Junior Muslim? And that was it. That's all my mom had to hear. It's never been a secret that I'm their favorite. It's never been a secret that I'm my grandma's favorite or most of my relatives' favorite. And they love me for it. And alhamdulillah, that's just how it is. But him throwing my name on there, it stopped her in her tracks. The next day she shows up and she's sitting across from me and she says, I need to ask you something. You Muslim? I was like, what? Where you coming from with this stuff? She's like, no, tell me, are you? I said, yeah. And I remember that my grandmother had said that she would never come see me in prison. And until this day, she never had came to see me in prison. And she chose that year to come. So that year, my grandma was there. So it was my grandma, my wife, my mother, and myself. And we was in this visit room. And I tell this woman yes. And this woman, in straight Dominican fashion, started bawling in the visit room, making a scene. Oh, God!
Yeah.
Oh, God! We Dominicans! We don't know nothing about Muslims! Oh, help me, help me. Yo, so my grandmother, as only she could have, and she got Alzheimer's now, and it still hadn't kicked in all the way back then.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2013. So this is 10 years ago. And she said, she just looked at my mom and was like, yo, that's it? You gonna mess up the whole visit? The boy told you he believed in God. That's one God. How many gods you know of? Mm-hmm. And it calmed my mother down. So we had the rest of the visit. Through all these years, all I ever heard from my mother was how she wanted me to stop getting tattoos, and how she wanted me to stop smoking weed, and how she wanted me to do this and do that. And I would always keep it real with my mother. And I said to myself, the least I can do is tell my parents the truth. I'm not going to have my parents believing something or thinking something, and then I come home and it's completely the opposite. Mm-hmm. So when she tell me, yo, you need to stop getting tattoos, I would tell her, Mom, I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm going to cover myself up. Oh, you need to quit. I'm not, Mom, I'm not going to quit smoking. Well, what you going to do when one of your kids? Mom, I ain't worried about that. This is what I'm going to do. Fast forward a year later. So what? You still get tattooed? Like, nah, Mom. She like, you smoke? Nah. Nah. She, all this time, I've been asking you to do this, do that. This. I said, Mom, it's God though, man. I said, it's God though. So she recognized after a year, after coming back and seeing the changes that had transpired, she came and she came to, and after she found out, she would never tell anybody I was Muslim. Mm-hmm. After coming the second time, that was usually how she led. She would always tell people, yo, oh, Junior, he's good. He's Muslim now. Mm. And after coming that second time, my wife told me how my mother turned around and she said, yo, at first, I was sad that he became Muslim. But now, after seeing him, I'm happy. And me in the future, you never know. That's what she said to my wife. So alhamdulillah, it made me happy. And I'm still hoping that, maybe with me coming home, which is actually going to happen in a couple of days, the emotions that have been going through me, the timing of this interview, and I will say that Allah is the best of planners, and we can plan to do what we plan to do in life, but only He knows the timing, and only He knows what's best. And I'm telling you that I'm sitting here and we having this conversation that we thought was going to be a short, quick, 30-minute. I want you to tell me about this, tell me about that, and it turned into this. And I always knew that my life was going to help others, because the pain that some of my actions caused certain people, a multitude of people, is something that had always been real heavy on me. So I always wanted to make sure that I would do what's possible for good to come out from it, and for other people to not make the same mistakes as myself because of what I'm teaching them through my story. And right now I'm enrolled in Youth Speaker University, and I'm preparing myself to actually start speaking to high schoolers and eventually college students. And I want to do it because I believe that that's a role that I'm supposed to play, because through my story, other people will either find relief or guidance, or ultimately find God, Allah. And that's the most important thing to me. So for us to be sitting here having this conversation, and for it to be 2 days before I go back to the Dominican Republic, and it happens to be 9 months to the date from when I came home. And anybody knows that a normal pregnancy is 9 months. And I'm telling you that I'm going right back to where it started the first time after those 9 months. And I'm coming back home. And in a sense, I feel like it's all came full circle. And it's the rebirth. And now I'm about to start living again on a higher scale. And here we are, putting it on record for the first time. And now we're talking about Islam, and it's a joy to me because this is what completed my life. This is the one constant that through my darkest days, especially when I was in prison and I was looking for guidance and I was looking for God, Allah found me and He gave me what I needed. And behind those walls, I learned how to be happy and how to be content and how to be complete. And I learned that He is in control of everything, and everything is for a purpose, and everything is for the greater good. And it's the most beautiful feeling. And the wife that I've been together with for 19 years, 8 of it before Islam. The way we was doing it before Islam was honorably, but the way we did it after Islam was easily, because we had guidance. And it was no longer about her and what she wanted or me and what I wanted. It was about what God said, what His messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, taught us, and what He brought us, and the guidance that we're supposed to follow. So it just simplified everything, and it made it to where it was just a matter of time before I would come home and play my role as I'm supposed to, as the head of the household, as the maintainer, as the supporter, as the protector. And it's been almost 9 months, like I said. And even just coming home, I remember a lot of people over the years, how anxiety would kick in for them. And they would always be worried about what they was going to do. Or they had these crazy plans that made absolutely no sense to me after I received the guidance. And I would always tell myself, I have nothing to worry about. I just got to come home and I got to put Allah first. And everything else will take care of itself. So what I did was, when I came home and I was released, the first thing I did was go to the masjid, to the mosque. And I've been there and I've made that place my staple, my second home. But it's been a blessing, and it allowed me to come back and focus on what's important. And the journey has been long, as you have heard, as you have seen. But this is the product of that. And I came a few months from 40 years old, then I turned 40, and I entered the prime of my life. And I got this beautiful wife that's along for this ride with me, that has been there. And everything in my life revolves around Allah, revolves around Islam, revolves around the guidance. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I am here. In this short time, I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm enrolled in U Speaker University, as I said. I started a podcast called All Things 100. Make sure you check me out, because this is real. And I started my cleaning business, which cleaning is something that I've done my whole life, something that my mother instilled in us from an early age. And there's nothing like working for myself and knowing that God, Allah, is my boss. I don't wake up to have to please nobody but Him. And the means of my living that I'm earning, I'm doing it for myself and for my family. And we have trusted that Allah is going to provide. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm excited for what's to come. As I've said, I got this trip to the Dominican Republic, and this is my first time in 21 years. So it's over half my life. I got my mother, my father there, my grandmother, my grandfather hanging on. I got my cousins, my aunties that cared for me since I was little. And now it's the time for me to go down there and show them what Islam looks like, and show them that this is who they've always wanted me to be, and this is why. So I'm really excited for everything that's to come.
MashaAllah, this is an incredible story. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may He bless you and your family. I mean, and and continue to protect us all. And alhamdulillah, and the brother, he had mentioned, his podcast, but also his YouTube page. And mention that one more time.
All Things 100.
All Things 100. Now, the previous videos will have links to All Things 100, alhamdulillah. And then we'll, inshallah, do some other videos with the brother in the future when he gets back from Dominican Republic. But really appreciate this story. It was a lot more than what I expected. I mean, it's just fascinating. I've known the brother, alhamdulillah, as I mentioned in the first of this videos that, I know the brother and I've enjoyed him, and he's an excellent brother from since I met him, but I had no idea that this is how he actually came to Islam. Brother Muhammad, he's Dominican, I'm African American, and so not to say that we're totally different cultures, whatever else, but age difference is quite probably 15 years difference or whatever, and so, but alhamdulillah, we come together for the sake of Allah, for the love of Allah, and this is the reason why we're friends and we have this commonality, and our growing up backgrounds are different, this, that, and the other, but we share this deen that makes us brothers. So, barakallah fiqh, Brother Muhammad. And so, we're going to end it with this. We thank you all for going to this journey with us.